Okay, so good evening, Shrija, Yogita, and Shrisha. We are here
Good
finally.
evening.
Today we have been able to join the right time, isn't it? Right. So, what should we do? Shall we start, or do you think we should wait for a minute or two? What is your opinion? Should we start?
We can start, I feel.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Fine. So, as I told you, we are into now the last unit of MGS-001, and here we are actually going to talk about gender, work, and health. Okay. So basically, we are all aware that this time, I mean, like in this particular section, we are trying to figure out as to what are the areas in which women are, contributing, the way women are contributing in economic development, and how their work should be regarded as an important work. And in the last unit yesterday, we were trying to understand, as to what the way various various policies are being made, and in what way women are becoming an active member, okay, or an active part of the development process. Now in this particular unit, which is the last book of this particular course, we are going to talk about, as I said, gender and work. So obviously, work, we are going to concentrate on what is the meaning of paid work and what is the meaning of unpaid work, and how women are, more and more into unpaid work. uh, what are the theoretical reflections as to what is the difference between paid and unpaid work, the livelihood, and subsistence production. We'll also talk about work life balance, which is very, very important. Many of you are working, so you're aware as to how important it is to work, to balance your work and life. Then we'll talk about gender, health, and well-being, right? So since women are getting into full-time work, women are getting into part-time work also, so it is also important to understand how important their health concerns are, right? And whether the government and other organizations are, contributing to promoting women's health. We'll also talk about sexual harassment, which is a very, very important topic, as you are all aware that in the last few decades you have observed that we have heard so many cases about physical violence and sexual violence against women. So we'll be talking about that. And of course, gender, occupational safety, and health is also important. And lastly, we will be talking about reproductive health and the reproductive rights. Okay, we know that reproduction is a very, very important part of women's life, and the way they are affected by the reproduction process. So what should be their rights, right? And the way they should be given certain special facilities, because this is something where women has to bear the the biggest responsibility. So of reproduction, because men, we all know, cannot reproduce, so obviously it is women's responsibility. Then how the man should be able to contribute to that responsibility. Okay, so these are the things we are going to cover now. To begin with, we'll talk about the work. We all know what is work. Work in economic terms is basically any physical or mental activity, okay, that is undertaken in order to receive a payment against it. Okay, so when we talk about work, it is obvious that work which is remunerated, okay, either in money or in kind, is generally considered as productive work. All right. So that is the reason uh, any work which is in the formal or informal economy, if it is if money is paid against it, it will be considered as economic work, right? But unfortunately there is a major gender segregation, okay, uh, and it is a very complex kind of a segregation that takes place. All right. So you will see that when we are talking about paid and unpaid work, you can understand, or you can, when you go through the chapter, you will realize that it is the paid work is mostly done by the male members of the society, and the unpaid work is generally, most of the unpaid work is done by the women. Okay. So because women are mostly into unorganized sector, there are many times their work is not even considered as, work, right? Because somewhere or the other it does not, it is not very visible. All right. So that is the reason why we have to understand the difference between paid work and unpaid work, and how important it is to find out a way through which even the unpaid work that is being done by the women can be included in the national economy, or in the GDP as we talk about it. Okay. So women uh, are working almost in every sector of the economy, starting from the primary sector, be it agriculture, be it animal husbandry, be it forest resource management. Everywhere they are contributing. They are also contributing in industrial manufacturing sector. They are definitely contributing in the service sector. But only people who are uh, contributing in sectors where payment is done, we are taking that as a as our as a productive work. All right. So here we will be talking about it. First of all, uh, when we consider work, you will find out that women are always, working almost throughout the day. Sometimes their work is almost 40 to 50 hours a week. Okay. It is not just that they are working 8 hours a day and the rest of the time they are able to to spend in leisure. They are working both the places, in the organizations where they are employed. They are also working at home, taking care of the entire family, cooking, serving, everything is being done. But they are still not included in the in the GDP. All right. Now, paid work and unpaid work, what is the difference? Labor force, has a, when it comes to a total, when we talk about labor force, the total labor force, they are divided primarily into employed or unemployed. Okay. So the labor force, which is considered as from the age of 16 to age of 60, the people in this, so whoever are employed will be a part of the labor force, who are unemployed also are a part of the labor force. But which is the workforce? All right. Now workforce are those people who are employed, okay, and are being paid against their work. All right. Payment which is not received in money, right, or if it is received in kind, then it does not, or it is not included in the workforce. So there is a difference between the labor force and the workforce. All right. So the labor force, as I said, employed, unemployed. Workforce becomes those who are employed, but and also those who are paid in terms of money. Now, because of the gender division of labor, okay, we all know that there is what is a division of labor, right? Division of labor is that in a one production process, if it is divided into small uh, segments, and one single person or a group of person, they are doing each segment, okay, but contributing towards the creation of maybe one product. Okay, so if a chair is being manufactured, and some people are assigned to only do the legs of the chair, some people are assigned to prepare the base of the chair, right? Some people are just polishing it, some people are putting it together, but the end result will be the creation of a chair, right? So that one common creation is being contributed by several individuals or group of individuals, right? So this is what is known as the general division of labor. Okay, when we talk about economic division of labor, why do we do it? Because we find that by doing so, we are able to produce more units of commodity. So if one single person is supposed to do the entire chair, he may take a few days to do it. But if it is divided into 5 6 segments, and group of people are assigned each unit of work, then they will be able to create more in one single day, because the job is going to be small. And when we put them together, maybe in 5 days, instead of having you know one chair, we will be having several chairs made. Okay, so it is basically the efficiency and the economic economies of the job that helps in higher production. But when it comes to women's division of labor is mostly because of the social roles that are assigned, or the society assigns the role. Okay, so it is basically not the economic division of labor. It is the division of labor that is assigned by the society, where the society decides, or uh, you know uh, or feels, or then determines the various roles that the women should be able to do and the man should be able to do. So on the basis of that, sometimes it has a very negative impact, because you are reserving certain areas which are meant only for women, which is mostly the household work, the care work, uh, these the work which does not have to be does not uh, bring so much of money, is being assigned to the women, and the rest is assigned to the men. Okay, so the gender segregation of work, when that happens, it becomes difficult, okay, for women to overcome that situation. Okay, like for example, we all know that there are certain roles that only women can perform. For example, bearing a child, right? We all know that child bearing is done only by women. That is because biologically and by nature, that is given on that is given to the women. But what about rearing the child? It is it is not at all a biological base that a man cannot rear a child, right? It is possible that it is true that he cannot bear, but he can definitely rear a child. But because society assigns that the role of the women is to become a mother, and therefore also do everything for rearing the child, the role of man, or the contribution of man in rearing the child, becomes almost nothing. Okay, the only thing that a man is supposed to do is to bring money, and you know give the monetary contribution, right? But that is always not true, because women are also contributing monetary wise. Nowadays, if you look at it, it is the women also who are working, isn't it? So when they bear the child, afterwards, if the rearing is not done by both the parents, it would become very difficult, and the women will be overburdened. And this is happening in a lot of areas, right? I'm not saying that men are not contributing. There are many quite a percentage of men nowadays, uh, in the modern society, because of better education, because of uh, better and more better consciousness, because of awareness, because of exposure, you will find a lot of men who are contributing to both, to the housework, to rearing of a child. No, their contribution is commendable. But at the same time, if we look at the larger part, we will see that this difference is still there. Okay, and of course, society, uh, is one, the cultural aspect, the society, the patriarchy. These are the things which are responsible. Okay, now when it comes to, now we will talk about what, the concept of paid work. you know uh, in the ancient times, when people were hunters and gatherers, there was not much distinction between uh, the work which is done for, by the women, or which is done by the men. Hunting and gathering, there were times when hunting used to be done by the men, but women were doing a lot of other things, gathering fruits, and other edibles. They were also equally contributing to building the shelter. Okay, sometimes they also went forward to go and have hunting, maybe smaller animals they used to hunt, but that was there. And during that system, barter trade was more common. So whatever they used to collect, whatever they used to hunt for, be it man or women, they were exchanging it with other people who have probably done or got something else, right? So there, the concept of payment was not very important, because payment was not done in money mostly. Okay, so they were done in commodities, right? So when during that time, it wasn't big, a very big problem. The cultivation on land was also done by both. Okay, so it was okay when it comes to agriculture and other associated activities. Both were doing the same work. But it changed when industrialization process came into existence, right? Because of the industrialization, the work was shifting from home to the factories. Okay, so when factories were established, now people were looking for job job which will give them money, and then later the money will be exchanged for their day to day requirements. Okay, so during that industrialization, monetary rewards became more important, and it also came into existence. So from good based economy, now we have shifted to the money based economy, right? Now here, women were sidelined. Okay, because in most of the factories it was thought that the women will not be able to do certain kind of work. Okay, various reasons, physically they, men are stronger than women, right? It was easier for men to move, to become mobile, go from one place to another. For women, it was not possible. As I said, the late night shifts or the night shifts, it was not conducive for women, because they must be at home. Because of the reproductive work, they have to take care of their home, so they have to contribute more time. Naturally, men were able to contribute, more time to their work in factories, right? Because of all these reasons, uh, women were somewhere or the other sidelined. And therefore, the difference between paid and unpaid work also came into existence. Men who were going into the factories, working, getting a payment, monetary payment, and that was being later on used for their products. So that became a very strongly paid work. And all the work that the women was doing, taking care of the children, taking care of home, gathering fruits and wood for and firewood, taking care of the elder people at home. So all these things became unpaid. Okay, So that is how the distinction between paid and unpaid work uh, uh, came. And women slowly could also understand that a full-time job in a formal factory system probably will not help them, because they have many other responsibilities, they have multiple roles to play. That is the reason they started concentrating more on the informal sector. Okay, moving, because that is a sector where it becomes easier for them to go and join, and then leave the job when they think that they are not able to continue. All right. So because they become casual laborers, part time kind of laborers, uh, the amount being paid to them was also very less, because there was no security on both the sides. For them also, for the women, there was no security. Those who were even having an informal sector in which the women were working, they also felt that this is a person who would be probably leaving anytime, so they will anyway give them a smaller amount, because they know that if they leave, they will have to get somebody else, and they might face a loss, so why pay them more, right? So on both sides, both the demand side as well as supply side, finally the person who suffered was obviously the women, because they were not able to do it. uh, uh, and Today, if you go through the data, you will find that in the total workforce, the total number of women, it is only the one fourth of women who are participating in workforce. Now why is it so less? Because probably those who are working in the informal sector, they are not even counted. Okay. So as I said, they are casual laborers, and they are not counted as a proper working force, and therefore we see that only one third of the total women are participating in workforce. uh, when it comes to the paid work, in the paid work also there is a general segregation of labor. Now general segregation are primarily of two three types. One is the horizontal segregation, one is known as the vertical segregation, and the other one known as the internal segregation. Now how are they different? Very simple. Horizontal is different occupation for men, different occupation for women. Okay. So uh, if we are when we talk about a certain caregiving occupation, it will be meant for the women, and some very heavy work, working in bigger factories, and that will be for the men. So two different kind of work assigned to two different people. Okay, so that is known as horizontal segregation. Vertical segregation is uh, when uh, when women are in the same organization also, women are at a lower post and men are at a higher post. Okay. So because women are not able to access education, technical skills, so also the fact that women might also be in a situation to may have to leave job, because they become pregnant and then they will have to bear a child, so they won't be able to come. So giving them a higher position is not found very conducive, and therefore whenever there is a job offer, the higher positions go to the women, to the men, and the lower positions goes to the women. Okay. So that is known as horizontal segregation. Internal segregation is that within the same organization, women are being given a different job and men are being given a different kind of job. So within that, internally it is segregated. Okay. In defense forces, that is what is usually happening. It was much later when women were allowed to go use fighter planes, isn't it? Very late, I'm happy that in uh, they are I'm happy that a lot of women are working in the Air Force and all these areas nowadays, but it was much later. It came into existence. Just give me a minute, okay? Just give. Just give me a second. There is somebody at the door, and I'll just see who the.
Yogita, please share your number so that we can add you in the WhatsApp group. You are not there.
Okay, ma'am, I will share.
Call me Nalini. I'm just a classmate.
I'm sorry, there was somebody at the door, and I have to, just attend to that person. So that is the different kinds of segregation or gender segregation of work. Now, what happens when there is a gender segregation, right? Gender segregation always results in gender discrimination at the workplace. Okay, any kind of discrimination is not very healthy. Okay, so therefore, whenever there is a gender segregation of work, you are actually, one is creating gender discrimination, right? Similarly, there is also a income discrimination. Okay, income discrimination where there is a major wage gap, okay, between the wage that is given to the men and the wages that is given to the women, right? They, at times, I'm not talking about the government organizations, because in government organization there is a pay scale. Now for that pay scale, if that particular position is of it's for women, men, irrespective of their gender, they will be given the same scale. But that does not apply in private organizations or in private institutions, isn't it? So whenever there is a gender segregation, there is also a difference in the there is a wage gap that exists, right? Low status of work, obviously, if women are being given work which is lower, okay, at the lower rung, okay, they are not getting opportunities to work at the higher position, their overall status also is low. Okay, then it also may result in health implications. Okay, sometimes there is a lot of psychological and harassment. There is a lot of pressure, unnecessary pressure. Sometimes too much of work and to are given to them, and they are not able to say no, because if they do, then they might end up losing the job. At the same time, there are a lot of cases of sexual harassment. The people of a higher position try to exploit them physically and sexually. So these are the results of gender discrimination, or rather gender segregation in work. Okay, now this is to do with the paid work. Now what is unpaid work, right? We must understand that all type of works have a productive value, whichever work it is, right? You cannot say that it is not productive, right? Any work which is being done is actually, it has a productive value, right? But at the same time, there are a lot of work which are unpaid, and therefore, because you cannot measure them in money, you are not able uh, to call them as productive work. Okay. So so that is how the distinction happens. Okay. Now whenever a work is performed and it is economically not measured, they are categorized as unpaid work. Okay. And unpaid work are usually invisible work. All right. Because it is not calculated, it becomes invisible. Okay. So according to the system of national account, actually the national account the system, or the system of national account, have always uh, defined work in terms of money. Okay, in terms of monetary valuation. And that is the reason, as per this definition, all those work which which are not economically measured will be termed as unpaid work. Now, what are those unpaid work? There are a lot of them. Work done in the family enterprise or agriculture holding on an unpaid basis. So suppose I have a family enterprise, I have a shop. Okay, my father has a shop, or my husband has a shop. So I go and spend time there, do the work that is there, maybe for some time. I also sit on the counter, uh, receive the money, give the commodities. Okay, pack commodities. Suppose if there are if it is it's a grocery shop, and I just go there in order to help, and therefore I contribute in making packages of food grain and all. So, but I do not receive a payment. Why? Because okay, it's a family enterprise. It is my husband's uh, shop. So I'm just going and doing the work there. So that, because it becomes an unpaid work, right? It is a work done, but it is an unpaid work. Primary production of goods for own household consumption. Okay, including subsistence farming. I told you that sometimes women, a lot of women work on subsistence farming. Okay, there's a small piece of land where they just produce certain things for their home use. A bit of crops, which are vegetable cropping, maybe, a little bit of vegetable garden that they will make, and it's enough to be used for their domestic purpose, right? Many of them use a part of it which they are not going to use, and go and exchange it with another thing in, who probably the neighbor has got. Okay, so these are the subsistence thing which they are growing at home, isn't it? The subsistence farming. Sometimes they produce, like for example, a lot of women make pickles. Okay, they make papad, right? They are good at making buddy, all these things which are uh, uh, used in cooking. They are making it, and what they do is that they use it for their domestic use, for their home use, and again exchange it with something which maybe the somebody else in the village has made. And they're actually into a barter trading. But because money exchange is not taking place, therefore it will not be considered as a paid work. Okay, production of services for income and other production goods which are not in the formal employment. Sometimes you produce goods, okay, you get an income also, but it is not considered as a formal income, because you are not into a formal employment. Okay, right? For example, somebody is constructing a home, okay, in a village, right? And one of the person from home, from the lady, or uh, even a young boy, he goes there and they help in the construction, and in return, a little money is given to them, okay. So because it is not a formal thing, uh, maybe the money whatever is given, it is not considered as a payment made, okay. These are a few things. There are many other things that are not at all included: meal preparation for home, laundry that is being done at home, taking care of clothes, house maintenance, the household maintenance, every woman is doing it, okay. Shopping, for the household commodities, right? Care for children, the sick, elderly, disabled of their own household, right? It is not to be included. Voluntary community service and help in other household. Sometimes if my neighbor is going somewhere and she is asking me to take care of her child for say 2 3 hours, right? It is a community work, right? Maybe in return sometimes she will help me also, right? But these kind of small community service, and this is a very common thing that happened, okay, but no payment is involved, and therefore all this becomes unpaid, right? Now what is the solution? What is the solution? uh, how can you find a solution to this, how to measure the unpaid work? Well, uh, a lot of people have talked about it, okay, America, Africa, because when women's movement started taking shape, everybody was talking about how the unpaid work should be included, okay. Unpaid work's main reason why we have an unpaid work is gender segregation. So the first thing is, it is important to figure out as to how you will stop, or rather control, the gender segregation. Now that's a very big challenge, because it is all into the cultural system, it is all into the social system, okay. So awareness needs to be there, right? On and off, there should be a lot of talking about it. There should be a lot of discussions on it, so that more and more people become aware, that the work that a woman does at home is also extremely valuable, right? But no, till now, foolproof system has not been developed when it comes to uh, calculating uh, the the unpaid work, okay. It is still there, and because of the unpaid work, a women also faces the challenge of the double burden, okay. More and more women are now getting educated. Hence, obviously it is important for them that they use their education, their capabilities, and start earning, okay. Look for employment, become economically independent. So be it in the urban areas or be it in the rural areas, more and more women are coming up out and leaving their home, going out and working. But unfortunately, because of the society, the social systems, because of the patriarchy system, uh, they are also burdened to do the household work, okay. Unless and until the family is supportive, unless and until there is a good understanding between the partners, okay, be it husband, wife, or whoever, unless and until there is a good understanding, the uh, the household work is generally the responsibility of the women only, okay. So before leaving for job and after coming back also, they have to take care of all the household management, from cooking to child rearing to taking care of the people, getting the shopping, everything. Now for urban women, this is the challenge. For the women in villages, There are challenges like, as I said, collecting firewood. There are people who have to walk miles to get water. Okay. Then other kind of a community work that they are doing, helping the neighbors. Everything is mostly done by the women, right? And because of the double burden, there is always a very high level of stress, and also too much of work on women. Okay, so that becomes a problem. Now the next unit is about the reflections on paid and unpaid work of women. So women all around the work are doing paid work, they are doing underpaid work, and largely they are doing unpaid work. Okay, so what are the main areas where these kind of work is done? uh, there is when you go through the book, you will come across a poem by Amrita Pritam. Must have, all of you must have heard. She is a poet. She was a poet, and she had written wonderful poetries, and she has written a lot of poetries on women and the condition of women also. So she has written a poem on housewife, and say that if the woman's husband is asked what does his wife do, the answer is my wife does not work. Okay, then who bears this world in her womb, who gives birth to the farmers and workers, who takes care of the husband? I mean, the poem goes like that. I'm not reading it, all of you will be able to read it yourself. So what she's saying is that the household work is being done, the husband is getting meals in time, the children are getting meals in time, the husband is able to leave for his work on time because everything is ready on the table. He doesn't have to go and cook or do anything, and everything is being taken care of. Still, when and it is all being done by the wife, but just because she is not being paid for it, the husband's answer is that what does your wife does? And he would answer that no, she is not working at all, right? So that is because of that shows the difference, between paid and unpaid work. So unless and until a woman is being paid, all her work becomes an unpaid work. So it has been seen that overall in world scenario also, a lot of uh, women are doing such kind of work. Now, valuation of productive and unproductive work. The debate is about the economic and the social function of housework and its relation to women's oppression. uh, it is always it happens that uh, because of the existence of unpaid work, women are generally oppressed, right? So right from the early, you know uh, the late 19th century, then later on to the 20th century, several feminist movement have come across, right? uh, which has talked about the concept of unpaid work, and they have talked about the reason why the household work needs to be given importance. All right, so when you go through it, you will see that there are some progressive movements. The socialist feminists were also there, and they were always saying that the capitalists are trying to uh, take the advantage of uh, the women's household work. That a women who in a Marxist view, that the women are given work in factories at a very low pay. Why? Because the capitalists believe that women will not be able to work for longer hours, so therefore they should not be given very high payment, right? And why can't they work for longer hours? Because they have to take care of the household activities. So therefore, whatever little time they are spending in the factories, we will give a very nominal amount for them, and then they can go and take care of the households, right? And because the feminist of the opinion that because women are taking care of the household activities, the men are able to contribute more time to the capitalistic enterprise, and therefore the capitalist is actually reaping a lot of benefit, right? Where men are contributing more hours and contributing to productivity, women are contributing to productivity in a smaller amount because they are spending less time, but at the same time they are also helping the men to contribute more. Okay, so ultimately it is the capitalist who is getting more and more kind of benefit. Okay, then reproductive work was also there were a lot of discussion on the reproductive work also, because there were economists, there were feminists who believe that reproductive work is actually resulting in addition to the workforce, obviously, because they are women are producing, and when they are women are reproducing, so when they are reproducing, the human child will one day become a part of the workforce, isn't it? So they are contributing also to the workforce, but that contribution, because reproductive work is not considered as a paid work, so obviously it is not considered at all, so it comes under the unpaid work. So how one is going to calculate it, then in the mid 70s also there was a lot of economic struggle, and there was a lot of feminist activists who talk about the fact that because of the reproductive work, when women are not able to become economically independent, they uh, they start depending on men for their financial needs, then it leads to social subordination, it leads to confinement, to unpaid work. And these are the reasons why, and these are the reasons why women are not able to uh, uh, you know work the way they want to. Their independence is also not they do not have enough independence. Okay, uh, then there is also a discussion on the women's household work, which becomes completely invisible. And why it becomes invisible, I told you, it is because there is no payment, and it is done in the private sphere. Okay, the code, any work which is done within the house is not considered as visible also, right? So when so there were a lot of social activists who were and feminists who were also talking about the invisible work, okay, as to how it can be or it should be made visible. uh, this is what is there. Then there were also again feminists who came up with an idea of economically productive and socially productive work. Okay, we all understand that economically productive work are the work which gives you money, right? Now, what are the socially productive work? So there were people who were saying that socially productive work could be uh, the work that is done uh, for leisure. Okay, because along with working, leisure also enhances uh, you know uh, uh, your psychological powers. Okay, so psychologically a human being must have social contacts, must have time to spend with their family, must have time to spend on themselves, right? Or do some leisure activities, whatever, it could be a sports, it could be taking a trip somewhere. So uh, are they socially productive, or should they be considered as a socially productive activity? Okay, there was also a discussion as to for a woman, because she is into reproductive service. Now when she is doing reproductive work, first of all, it is not being paid, so it becomes an unpaid work. But when she is rearing a child, when she is playing with her child. Now, that play, should it be considered as a socially productive work? Because playing with the child gives her uh, happiness. Okay. So then there was again a discussion as to how much time should a woman give in order to uh, let's say rear the child, play with the child, spend time with the child. Because if she is uh, contributing more time to it, then is it a productive activity or is it not a productive activity? So you will find all kinds of discussions, different feminists coming up with different ideas. There were criticism also, because many people said that playing with a child, how can you calculate it? It is not possible. And obviously there are certain things like satisfaction, or these kind of things are, you cannot, you cannot calculate it, isn't it? So that's the reason why there has always been uh, a discussion on these. But of course there is no foolproof ideas, but these are the topics of debate, and these are also very, very important topics of debate. Okay, because there were economists and there were socialists and there were feminists who said that because of their reproductive rights, reproductive work, women are also subjected to exploitation. Okay, exploitation by the family, exploitation uh, by the employer. Okay, and because of this there are times when women are also not able to pursue their career. Okay, so these are things which need to be discussed, right? It needs to be needs to be worked upon, and find a solution for that. Okay, there was also a discussion on the public and the private split. Okay, we all know that women work, or for any person, there is a public sphere which is working outside the home, there is a private sphere. Okay, uh, it is claimed by the feminists that women's work is always uh, considered as being, if you're talking about the stereotype work of women, it is usually restricted to the household. Okay, so it becomes very difficult, and the patriarchal family approach also designates women, or rather relates women to the private sphere. All right, so it is important to understand that uh, this needs to be broken, and more women are coming up, and they are now going into the public sphere as well. Okay, so you will go through it and you will see that there are certain theories uh, about these things, about there's some people who say that uh, the paid and the unpaid work, or giving more money or less money, is also dependent on the race, class, of a person, right? A person who is very poor uh, is not just because of their lack of ability or skill. It is also sometimes the racial distinction. Now this race, class, caste, we have seen that this applies in many countries. Okay, we all know the policy of apartheid. Okay, uh, in America, the blacks were treated very badly. Okay, they had come from Africa, they were brought from Africa rather, in order to work in the American field, in sugar cane production and all. And later on, many of them stayed back. Of course, they did not go back. Those who stayed back had to face a lot of racial issues, right? So whether it is Europe, whether it is America, the skin color uh, played a very negative impact. Okay, and many of the people who were dark skinned, warm skin tone, dark skin, they were considered as incapable of doing good work. Okay, so they were treated very differently. Okay, lot of things have changed, but even today it is there. Okay, the social taboo, the way people think about them is something which is very difficult to understand. Okay, so that is also there. And yes, education does make a lot of change. When people become more educated, then obviously your thinking process change. But at the same time, this has continued. This situation has been there, where women of a different skin color, women of a different class, be it an economic class or any other class in India also, a lot of issues are there when it comes to the people who are coming from uh, uh, you know uh, 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 the scheduled tribes or scheduled caste. They have been in many places treated very badly. So the way these things are happening, already because of some reason women are subjected to being marginalized. But these things also add up to that. Okay, so paid work and unpaid work, or the kind of working condition being provided, also becomes a very difficult uh, thing. Now the next thing, along with work, paid, unpaid, we come across another point, which is the livelihoods and subsistence production. Okay, now sorry, I went to switch on the lights. Okay, right. So now what are we going to do in livelihood is as to understand what are the components of livelihood. Okay, right. uh, what do you understand by livelihood, first of all, and what are the components, what do you understand by the sustainable livelihood. Okay, now what is livelihood? Basically, in very simple terms, it is a means to a living. Okay, the way you can earn money in order to live. Okay, so that is what is primarily meant by livelihood, right? Obviously we all understand that it will provide you the support, for enhancement of your capabilities. Okay, so now definitely capabilities are both end and means. When you are capable to earn a livelihood, when you earn a livelihood, you can also enhance your capabilities, isn't it? So both ways capabilities are important. First is that you must have some kind of capability or develop some kind of capability to be able to earn your living, right? Once you start earning your living, you can actually use that money that you have you have earned to improve your capability. Okay, so not just capability, not just in terms of skill, but capabilities also in terms of asset building, right? So when we and that can go a long way into having a sustainable livelihood. Like for example, if I have nothing, no assets, but I have some capability of working in a company, right? So when I start working in a company, I start earning money. The first thing is that I start providing myself with my daily requirement. Okay, after that, the additional money that I earn, I can use it for enhancing my capability to make a better livelihood in future. Now, enhancing my capability can be in terms of enhancing my skills, right? Or enhancing my asset base. Maybe I can go and I can do something about owning a house of my own. Okay, so that will add to my asset building. When I have an asset, okay, it will in future it can give me uh, a sustainable livelihood. I can put a part of it on rent and start earning money out of that, isn't it? I can invest in some kind of other assets, like I can invest in shares, right? I can invest in some kind of deposits, okay, some kind of insurance, isn't it? So they are all increasing my assets, okay, and later on it is helping me to have a sustainable livelihood. So livelihood plays a very, very important role in becoming in making you your income more sustainable. All right, so whatever livelihood capabilities you have, you can also include claims and uh, you know uh, access to something like access to a property, right? Your claim to some kind of a property that also enhances your capability, right? If you already have a land in your name, right, that means your capability for livelihood will be enhanced, right? You can later on make yourself also, but if you have already have, it helps you to have a higher capability. You can make a living out of it also, isn't it? When you make a living, you can have more resources at your disposal, right? So resources, all kinds of resources, permanent resources, and day to day resources, you can enhance that. Okay, you can have some tangible assets, some intangible assets, right? So these go up into a long way to give you a sustainable livelihood, right? It is important to understand that uh, in an economy or in a country, there are a certain group of people who have a lot of capabilities, assets, everything, right? But there is a large section of people who do not have it. Okay, so we have to figure out as to what are the livelihood assets and capital. First is the natural capital. Okay, natural capital are in terms of land, water, resources. That is uh, the the biological resources or natural resources, trees, pastures, biodiversity. Now these natural resources are free for everyone, but then who have the access to it? We know that there are many places where men have an access to land, women does not. Okay, so that makes women a little weak when it comes to building capabilities. Okay, so that is something which needs to be taken care of. Okay, then financial capital, we all know in terms of money, how much savings you have, how much debt you have. Okay, so if you have more debts and less savings and less income, obviously, there is an imbalance. How men and women are placed in these situations. Okay, so because we are doing everything from the gender perspective, we need to include all these things, right? The physical capital is created by economic production, production of tools, production of machineries, okay, roads, infrastructure, buildings, irrigation work, right? So when these are being created, who has an access to it? Okay, so if roads are created, it should be applicable, it should help both men and women, right? But in the transportation or in the mobility situation, who is more mobile? The man is more mobile or the women is able to move more, right? So that also changes the capability of a person. Okay, then we come to the human capital. Human capital obviously is skill, knowledge, your education, your ability to work, right? Health, okay, your physical, mental, emotional health, right? Again, how much does it help, or how much it is with the man, or how much it is with the women? Okay. Access to education, whether it is technical or any other education, uh, knowledge, skill, is it equally available to both the gender? All right, that has to be taken care of. What is the health facilities, right? How much women is able to access the health sector, I mean, and how much a man is able to access it, right? So these are again to be taken care of, because ultimately all these are um, going to enhance or restrict, the capability of the man and the women. Okay, so that has to be taken care of. Then social capital. Okay, social capital is like rights and claims, membership to a group. Okay, whether you are a member of any group, any group that is created which helps in the social development. Okay, so your networking. Okay, how much good you are, the circle of people around you. Okay, so all these things, are you able to create that network, that social network which will enhance your capability? You are in a problem, do you have anybody to immediately give you a call, whom you can call, and the person can come and help you? Or as I said, you are a member of a group, and that group will come and help you out. Okay, so all these things would later on uh, enhance or help in enhancing uh, the capability of a person. And the more enhanced your capability is, the better is uh, the possibility of earning a better livelihood. Okay, so for livelihood and for a sustainable livelihood, these are very essential. Okay, in gender analysis also, uh, we have to take these perspectives and issues in consideration, right? Later on you will be discussing on gender analysis. So when you analyze the gender data, you must be able to figure out as to what are the social relations, right? What are the activities that are taken up by a women and activities taken up by a men, the access and control, okay, on various areas and assets, and also the needs, what are the distinct need of men and distinct need of women, because all this will help you to analyze the gender and assess the livelihood. Okay, as to how more and more livelihood can be, a better livelihood can be created. Okay, then the major determinants that are there. Okay, so determinants is, like, for example, uh, some inherited livelihood. Okay, you have inherit something, from your parental side, right? So that will obviously, you're born with a livelihood. Okay, you already have a company, your father has a company, right? And you have an you are able to work in that, so you get that livelihood from by birth. Okay, but there are other determinants like the social, economic, and the ecological environment. Where are you? Uh, uh, where are you at present? What is the social system, right? Is it very restrictive, right? Is it very restrictive in case of a women going out and achieving something in life? If so, then the livelihood issue will be there. If not, you will be able to earn a better livelihood. What is the kind of ecological environment, you know the place you are in, right? Either you are born there or you are living there right now. What is the ecological balance? That also affects your livelihood. The economic condition of your country, uh, that determines your livelihood. Then access to assets, you know uh, what are the assets and whether you have an access. I keep always telling you that women have lesser access to assets. Okay. That's the social this thing. Legally they're allowed to, but sometimes it may or may not be possible, right? Then if you are born in a very poor family, then in order to have livelihood or a better livelihood, you might actually have to work in multiple activities. Morning half up you're working somewhere, in the evening you are working somewhere, you are doing something additionally at home in order to enhance your income, because you need more higher income for a better capability and a better livelihood. Okay. So these are ways through which one can understand the livelihood system, as to what livelihood means and how it is worked on. Okay. So that is what is there in the livelihood process. Then we come to work and life balance. Okay. Work life balance, most of you are working, and I'm sure all of you are trying to create a work life balance. We know that with industrialization, mostly the families which were initially joint family system has actually broken, right? So people have migrated from their birthplaces and their hometown to other places where they are trying to make a life for themselves. They're working in industries, they're working in different companies, and therefore there is an increase in the nuclear family system, right? Now, in the nuclear family system, initially when the industrialization was very new, uh, when the nuclear family came into existence, the men were the one who were mostly working in factories and in the companies, and the women was taking care of the home. Okay. So there the work life balance was like more or less balanced. Okay. Because one is taking care of one area, the other one is taking care of the other area. But later on, obviously, with higher better education, educational opportunity, enhancing education and skill, the women also, they also want to become economically independent. Moreover, it also became somewhere a necessity. Okay. Because the demands in the city, okay, the hope for a better life, okay, to the desire to have your own home or anything, right? So you need more money for that. And obviously, because of these reasons and because of the fact that women also wanted to be economically independent, now both partners are working, right? So in such case, balancing home and work, it becomes your personal life, balancing your personal life and your work life, it becomes extremely important, right? Because if it doesn't happen, then there can be a lot of issues. Okay. Your family problem will be there, there will be a disturbance in the family, there is a possibility of of a constant tension. And it not only creates a problem in the home, it can also create a problem in the office or in the place of your work, isn't it? Because there is always a spillover, right? So if in an office the environment is not good, or if there is too much of pressure of work, the spillover will be in your family life, isn't it? So then there will be a problem, because both of them are working, you come back, you are full of what has happened in the office, and then finally it blows up, and then there is a tension and problem in the family. Now if that tension and persist in the family, the relationship becomes strained, there is a spillover also in the office environment, isn't it? Because when you are already so much stressed out in with your house, with your home issues, with your relationship problem, the there will be that spillover will obviously affect the your work life, isn't it? So your efficiency, your productivity will be again challenged, right? And this it keeps changing. As when you are single, your challenges are different, right? When you are getting married or when you marry, or you have a partner, there is other challenges, right? When you have children, the challenges are, you know, uh, another set of challenges you might have to face, right? And you have to start thinking about how you're going to manage all these things, right? So in general, as I said, you know, it is women who, in most of the cases, women are the one who are taking more responsibilities, okay? Because they have to take care of the office where they are working. Obviously they cannot compromise on that unless and until they decide to compromise, and they have to also take care of the home. So you know, data show that a woman is actually, you know, per week, as I said, working to something around 40-45 hours a week, okay? And that puts a lot of pressure on them, okay? The employer's responsibility also come here, because as an employer, if you want to retain your you know, employees, right, uh, you can provide certain kind of facilities, okay? Some facilities to help maintain the work life balance, so that they are able to satisfy it. Like for example, facilities for child care. Apart from the maternity leave, nowadays we say that we also have paternity leave, okay? So the father can also have a you know, leave when the child is born. But apart from that, you know, maybe providing a facility of a creche, you know, in your, in the a creche is always very very important, especially if the mother is lactating, okay? If the child is very small, you know, it becomes difficult for the mother to keep the child somewhere, you know, far away. So many companies, good companies, and you know, they try to provide these facilities, but there are many companies who are not able to, or who don't want to, for whatever reasons. I mean, of course it's an expensive, it's an addition to their cost, of course, but one has to, one can think about it, okay? They can help financial planning, you know, for their employees, okay? So you know, providing provident fund, providing gratuity, providing these kind of, you know, social security schemes. There is also in many companies, sometimes, you know, there are something which is known as flexi timing, okay? So the timings can become you know, flexible. So the people who are working there, uh, you know, can manage both home, and there can be an offer of part time employment, okay? So that also help. Leave plans, you know, for both paid and unpaid leave, you know, some kind of you know, according to the employee's need, there can be leave plan. There can be subsidized food plan, okay? In many companies, especially bigger organization, there is a subsidized food. So if the couple is coming and working there, at least one meal they can, you know, have there, and they don't need to work and figure out as to how they will have their lunch or dinner, whichever, right, time they are working. Insurance plans, as I said. Counseling services, you know, if there is a problem being faced by an employee, it's always a good idea to have a counseling cell in the company, okay? There are many companies have a counseling cell who can counsel the you know, the person, right, who is facing problem. Even couple counseling cells are also there in many of the companies, of course. Restrooms, you know, should be there. It is also possible that you can have a food preparation services, you know, a canteen kind of thing. Then uh, jobs where, you know, you can give more flexibility, you know, and autonomy to the employee, okay? So because too much of strict working environment can also create a lot of stress. Realistic workload, you know, I know that in competitive world we are always struggling to meet the deadlines, isn't it? So let us see if the deadlines can be, you know, become a little flexible. Can it be more realistic? The word workload can be realistic. If the deadline is very close, then can we have more people trying to put the work together. So these are things that needs to be taken care of. Okay, so the work burden, isn't it? Because unless and until we do that, the work family conflict may create a lot of problem. We know that in the last one decade or 2 decades, we have seen a lot of family breaking up. Okay, a lot of divorces taking place. So I'm not saying that one divorce, I'm not getting into the argument of whether the divorce is good or bad, but then ultimately it is an emotional stress, isn't it? It is also important to, I understand that it is also important that a toxic relationship should not be taken further, and it is important to break it as soon as possible. But if there are ways through which things can change, if the relationship is not toxic but it is because of the lack of work life balance that the problem is being created, then can a solution be found out? Okay, so both the employer as well as the employee needs to work. Okay, one might question that why does the employer needs to be bothered? There are so many people waiting to get a job, and but then the point is that when an employee joins an organization, the organization also spends money on the growth of that employee. Okay, so the employee who is working in an organization for maybe a few years, he or she is actually an asset to the organization or to the company, and that is something which the employer must realize, and many employers do realize it. Because after all, if that person leaves and if you're taking a new person, a lot of training and trying to induct that person again in that work, it takes a lot of time and effort, right? So if you already have a person working for you, it is important that you retain that person, and maybe one should try and go a little out of way, okay, to help that person to be there, isn't it? So that needs to be then there is also a concept which is known as the quality of life approach. Okay, that the number of social and economic input that is received by a group or individual. Okay, it is important to understand as to what exactly is quality of life. Now, quality of life is both quantitative as well as the qualitative. Okay, fine. It is also important to understand that the quality of life can also be calculated in terms of the lifestyle. Okay, the number of the kind of home or house you have, the assets you are having, the mm, uh, mm, what kind of lifestyle you are following. But at the same time, it is also important to understand what is the qualitative part of it. Okay, quantity, yes, but what about the quality? Okay, the social life that that person has, the social interaction that that person is able to have. Okay, uh, the self realization, the self expression, whether the person is able to develop the self respect and confidence for themselves, so they also have an impact on the quality of life. So it is not just about the money one is earning, the assets the person is able to create. They are the quantitative part of your quality of life. Okay, the standard of living. But the standard of living also relates to the health, the self realization, the self respect that you have for yourself, the confidence to face. So all these things are also included in the concept of quality of life, right? uh, Similarly, the concept of well-being. Okay, so these are a part of your work life balance, in the sense that you are able to, if these are the things which are there with you, if you have a better quality of life, if you have a better standard of living, if you're able to have a qualitatively good life, then it is easier for you to balance everything, right? So the concept of well-being, right? The concept of a well-being, what is concept of, it's like emotional, spiritual, health, and your social involvement. Okay, so the concept of well-being relates to your emotional condition, right? uh, that is something which you have to be there. How much emotionally better you are, how much emotionally stronger you have. Emotionally stronger doesn't mean that, a person who doesn't cry is emotionally stronger. No, that's not true. But the emotional strength, of facing difficulties, of facing challenges, are you able to have an emotional balance? Okay, then you don't lose temper unnecessarily. So that shows that you are you are a more emotionally balanced person. Then sometimes the spiritual thing also occurs, right? Again, when I talk about spiritual, and I'm sure all of you are aware, spiritual doesn't mean religious. Okay, right? It is the spirituality, the understanding, of you know uh, of the universe. Okay, the universal law, if I might use that word. So that's spirituality, right, which is there. Then your health issues, as to how good they are, how well you are, I mean, like, your wellness, your health situation, and your social involvement. Are you socially an active person, right? Are you able to meet your friends, or are you able to talk to somebody you want to? Okay, maybe you are also socially involved in some kind of social activities. Okay, it can be with an NGO, it can be something to do with the environment. So the more active you are, it helps in enhancing your well-being. Okay, so there can be like, uh, what are the indicators of your well-being? It's the psychological well-being. How you can have, how you can manage uh, anger, anxiety, how you can manage depression, right? We are human beings, we all go through these kind of phases, but it is important how to handle. Then, as I said, self concept, your self esteem, right? Your self power, the knowing that, I am, in a good place, right? So that is also very important. Physical health, obviously, uh, facing chronic problems and all, if there is any kind of disability, then how that person is managing that disability. Then behavior and conduct. So, what is your behavior when you are in public, or you are in people, uh, young people who are facing drug abuse, alcoholism. So that becomes an indicator. If they are using these kind of things, that means there is a serious problem that needs to be handled. And of course, the material quality of life, obviously, I told you, income, your standard of living, whatever you have in terms of money. Then social well-being, number of friends, social participation, right? Number of friends, I'm not talking about only on Facebook. Okay, so sometimes we do have a lot of them. But then your social well-being, okay, depends on this. Then your, as I said, social participation, social support, you know contact with your parents, if you, or your extended family, your relatives and all, whether you're able to, talk to them, whether you're able to spend time there. Then of course, the marital quality. Okay, the marital satisfaction. If there is an disagreement, then how one handles. So these are the areas that needs to be focused to see a person's well-being. Okay, there can be well-being of physical well-being. Physical well-being obviously depends on all those things which you take physically, like for example, food intake. What kind of food intake? Now, why we are doing this? Because we have to also look at it from the gender perspective. Okay, all the things that, indicators that I have told you, how much male are able to do it, and how the women are able to do it. So if there is a difference, then that means one of them, okay, is facing the problem of having a well-being, right? So how it can be enhanced, isn't it? Similarly, like as I said, for physical well-being, what is the food intake? It is not just quantity, it is the quality. A balanced diet, okay, whether both the gender are having access to balanced diet, okay. Housing needs, we all know that everybody needs, हम कहते हैं ना हिंदी में रोटी कपड़ा मकान, right? So house is a major is a very important thing that a person needs, a place to live. What kind of place is there, right? Whether the housing needs are being satisfied, we have seen certain areas like slum areas, the condition is, you know is pathetic in some of these places. So we need to figure out, what kind of house is there for these people. Facilities in the workplace, a person who is working, is it a place which is hygienic? Whether facilities like separate restrooms are there, okay, whether they are getting facilities during pregnancies, okay, when women are uh, pregnant, how they are able to manage their workplace. Are they able to get a comfortable place, to sit? Because uh, those are the times when, some extra precaution needs to be done. The period work, the amount of work on the person, right? So these are things that needs to be taken care of. Focus on reproductive health is also very, very important, especially as I said, for people who are pregnant, for women who are pregnant and the lactating women, okay. So it is for them. It's very important for adolescent girls, also, we know women, adolescent girls, they start menstruating. So the clean, whatever health requirements are there, whether they are available or not. Then what are the kinds of adoption of family planning measures, okay. So when a couple decides to go for family planning, what kind of measures they are adopting, right? Whether they are good for their health or not. There are a number of things available in the market. So one needs to understand, the need, the requirement, and the health factor, okay. So these are the things that are needed. We also need to figure out the emotional and the mental well-being. Professional growth here plays a very important role. If a proper professional growth is taking place, then there is an emotional and mental well-being. When I am working in a company, I am getting a good salary. I am also having a future in front of me, okay. So I know that if I work well, not only my salary will increase, my position in that organization will also go up. So all these things, the professional growth helps to maintain a good emotional and mental well-being. The quality of life is also very, very important, as I told you, for for a better uh, emotional and mental health. All right. So the next unit relates to gender, health, and well-being. Okay, so we have done basically for both the genders, I mean the men and the women, what are the requirements of the health and the well-being. So now we are going to talk here is about the gender and the health. What is health? We all know it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It's not just or not merely the absence of disease, okay. Generally we say that if there is an absence of disease, then the person is healthy, but that's not true, okay. So that's just one part of it, okay. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. Now, what are the components? No, first of all, is the physical health, right? So physical health is obviously an absence of disease, any kind of ailment or disability. So if you have these, then that means you are physically healthy. Okay. Then we come to the mental health. Mental health is the control of your emotions, right? How much you are able to control on them. Your sensitivity to the needs of other people. Are you sensitive to, the needs of people around you, right? So if you're not, then there is some problem with the uh, with your mental health. Confidence in your own ability. Okay, how much a person is confident. What about her or his self esteem? How does he or she feels about the self esteem, right? Then freedom for unnecessary tension, right? uh, I mean, there are certain tensions which are there, but then do you have the freedom from unnecessary tensions, anxiety, worries, right? Whether you have that sound mind to manage these kind of things. Then we come to the social health. Now, what is the concept of what are the indicators of social health, right? uh, do you have a social group? Okay. A support group, maybe, for each other, right? Can you create, that kind of a social group? Can you curb your isolation, and neglect from the society, right? uh, if there is any kind of a situation where there is a neglect from the social area, then how you are able to curb it? So do you have that kind of a support group? Okay. uh, is there a group where you can vent out, or your emotions? Okay. So these are very, very important uh, things, the way you behave in a society, uh, the your helpful nature for others, they all enhance the social health of an individual and people around them. Then of course your sexual health, all right? That also is very, very important. Reproduction, childbirth, the number of pregnancies that a woman has to go through, right? The miscarriages, the number of children, the spacing of the children, all these are important for a person's uh, sexual health. And it's not just about the women, it is about the men also, isn't it? The men's sexual health is also very, very important, right? Because ultimately, if the partners are together, then a man's sexual ill health will also have an impact. HIV positive, HIV and AIDS, and these things are sexually transmitted disease. So both of them, it is important. Okay. So that is what you have to do. You have to also talk about the gender and health. Primarily, women face a lot of health issues, okay, because of certain reasons. Okay. The reason is that there is a the relationship between gender and health. Okay. The fact is that in many a times, women are not able to access uh, the health the institutions. Okay. It is possible that the institution is far away, so the women is not able to go. Okay. In many of the societies and culture, a woman is not supposed to travel alone. So if you are going to a dispensary, if it is available, then also you must have somebody along with you. If there is no one to take you there, then the women is not able to access it. There are times, when women's health is also not taken very seriously. Okay. uh, there is a possibility that if uh, a woman is facing some kind of a problem, let us say headache. Okay. So what is done is that it is told that okay, no, it's fine, go and lie down for a half an hour and everything will be okay. So she will go and lie down, and then if she's okay, fine. If not, then again, acha, medicine le lo. So most of the time, we all depend on our own home medicine. Kabhi kuch medicine ghar mein crocin le lo ya kuch le lo. We never think that it can be a serious matter, right? Now, what happens is that many a times it also happens that when we take a medicine and it is everything is fine and we don't bother about it. But if the symptom persists, okay, if we are able to identify the symptoms, then are we able to access? Okay, suppose okay, in cities where we are staying, most of you, I mean, I think all of you are coming from the from good cities, so that medical facilities available nearby. But in the rural areas, it is sometimes not possible. The primary health centers in many areas are not very very equipped. Okay, sometimes they don't even have enough medicines. Okay, so there is a lack of doctors, there is a lack of good doctors, right? So because of all these situations, if suppose she is able to go and meet a doctor, and then there are times when the medicine is prescribed, uh, you know uh, they have given medicine for 5 days, right? There are many people, and I'm not just saying women, there are even men in that. They take two medicines, 2 doses, and then she's feeling fine, and then फिर खा के क्या फायदा है, और एक I am okay now. So now for the next 3 days she's not taking any medicine. Why? Because after taking two doses she finds that she's absolutely fine. So when that kind of an attitude comes, and that kind of a thinking process comes, right, then it is possible that that situation will reoccur again, right? I have met people who have taken two medicines and then said that okay, everything is fine, and after some time, when she felt that she's again feeling the same kind of pain, वो जो बचे हुए 3 medicines थे वो खा लिए without even asking. Okay, so these are the situations which sometimes, of okay, it is possible that kuch nahi hoga, right, everything will be fine, but it is also possible that it might lead to a major health issue later on. Okay, so the way uh, health is taken up, the way health of women is being taken, right, all these things becomes difficult. Their access to institutionalized medical care, the utilization of their medical care. Okay, the assumptions that okay, whether I am sick or not, and then finally, thinking that okay, if I am not well, then I'll take a medicine and maybe I'll continue to take it or not continue. These kind of personal decisions, when a woman takes or the family takes for a woman, it becomes very difficult. Okay, uh, there are certain physical health and determinants of the well-being. Okay, like food intakes. I told you that food is very very important. A woman is cooking for everyone, right? And in most of the Indian homes, a woman is supposed to serve everyone, and later on, whatever is left, the women will have it. Okay, many a times it is I'm not talking about every family, I'm talking about many poor families where the women finally is not able to have enough. Okay, so, and it has been noticed that a huge population, almost 60 to 70% of adolescent girl in our country, they are anemic. Okay, and the anemia is a very big problem as far as India is concerned. I'm sure it's there in other countries, but I'm talking about my country. So that is there. Okay, the kind of food, the nutrition that should be there for a woman is becomes a problem, right? We have to understand that a woman, uh, right from the childhood, needs good diet, because in future she's also going to bear children. right? And when a mother, a woman becomes mother, as a lactating mother, the hormonal changes that takes place, that has an effect on it, on her. The other physical changes that takes place also have an impact on their health. So in order to combat those impact, it is important for them to have a better nutritious food, which uh, lacks, okay, which is lacking, right? Then of course, there are many NGOs who are working on it, and some changes are there, but still a lot needs to be done. As I told you, some common illness and medical care must be provided. There is an attitude towards women health. Just now, as I told you, sometimes they don't take uh, things very seriously. Okay, the attitude towards the family, attitude towards women's health also sometimes is very 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 kind of passive kind of an attitude, so that needs to be changed. The vicious circle of poverty and women's health is also there. The poor women is uh, the possibility of going to a health center or going to a private doctor becomes impossible, so obviously she has to go to some free medical uh, centers, and those may or may not have good quality medicine, sometimes they don't. Okay, so it becomes a little difficult for them to get the right kind of a medicine. And of course, the violence. Okay, a lot of women face violence. Okay, domestic violence, sexual violence, that also uh, have a toll on their health. And home and the work condition also plays a very very important role. What kind of house, home they have, whether there is a proper sanitation issues, housing is there, whether it's a house which has got good ventilation. As I said, nowadays we are talking a lot about having bathrooms, and making toilets in the home, right? So when this issue was raised, by our prime minister, there were a lot of discussions and lot of criticism also, and of course there was a lot of uh, talks in favor of it also. But we must realize that it is a basic requirement of a house to have your own toilet. Okay, so every house must have it. So but then in our country there were a huge number of houses where toilet was not there, right? So it is important, these are things that are important. There should be a privacy, so for every women, a privacy is also there, it is important for them, right? So these are things which are important criterias which decides a woman's health. Okay, then of course the reproductive health of the women. Okay, reproductive health, reproductive rights, they are the human rights. Okay, it is important for women to have the rights to decide, right to decide how many children she should have, right to decide when she would want to have a child, right to decide on abortion, right to decide the space between the children, right to decide what kind of contraceptive to be used. Okay, so these are the necessary rights uh, of reproduction. Okay, since reproduction is primarily an activity which is done by the women, women must be able to decide it. Okay, so and in our country, a majority of our population does not use any contraceptive method as a birth control. Okay, so the problem is that, and female sterilization is uh, most popular. Okay, if they do take a family planning thing, it is the female who has to go for it, because somewhere or the other there are a very weird misconception about males sterilization. Okay, so the male members, they that's basically a cultural and a patriotic issue. And they feel that male sterilization may not be, it is not proper, because it reduces the power of a male. Okay, so that kind of an thinking process, which results in most of the sterilization being done by for the women, right? So these are the things which are there, these are issues which are there. uh, and a lot of work is being done. A lot of the government is also doing a lot of work. The NGOs and other organizations are also doing a lot of work. But it is there, right? The emotional and mental health of the women is also very, very important. uh, those In our country, the mental health is something which is a very serious issue, right? I'm not talking about just the women, but even men. We are not ready to talk about mental health. Okay, for the last uh, few years, a lot of discussion is being and debate is happening, but even then, uh, uh, you know uh, people are not ready to accept the mental health as a problem which needs to be taken uh, uh, to a mental doctor, right? Because the kind of taboo people, people taboo have that taboo of not talking about mental health at all. Okay, pagal hai kya, that kind of a thing. So when we are sick physically, we go to a doctor, right? When we are sick mentally, we must go to another doctor, right? But then it doesn't happen. Women face additional challenges. They are deserted by the family, they are deserted by the husband. Uh, if somehow she manages to go into a mental asylum and get a proper treatment, when she is fine, also when she recovers also, most of the time families refuse to take them. Okay, so be it the in-laws or be it their own family, sometimes they refuse to accept them in the family again, and they spend n number of days and the rest of the life in these kind of either asylums or in some shelter hospitals, homes. These are the places where they have to spend their life. So this is an issue which needs to be handled very sensitively and very carefully, right? uh, so these are to do with uh, with the the mental well-being. The social well-being of a women is also very, very important, right? So the leisure time, the interaction in the society, right? These are the areas that needs to be taken care of. The next unit is about the sexual harassment. Okay, sexual harassment happens everywhere, in home also, in you know in the public places, in organizations or places of work. So what comes under sexual harassment? Any kind of physical contact and advances. Okay, a demand or request for sexual favor, sexually colored remarks. Okay, uh, showing pornography to the women or anybody. Any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. So it has been said that these are all to be considered as sexual harassment. Okay, and the sexual harassments are primarily, there are two type of sexual harassment, especially in the working place. One is known as quid pro quo of sexual harassment. Now, this is basically a Latin phrase which means something for something. Okay, so that means there are uh, there are we have heard that the employer offers some kind of sexual, demands some kind of sexual favor in return of a promotion in return of, the kind of work that the women wants to do, right? uh, in return of additional money, leave, or anything of that sort. So in return of something, if a sexual favor is being asked, so it is known as quid pro quo sexual harassment, right? Another way of sexual harassment is harassment that creates a hostile, you know uh, work environment. Okay. By making remarks, by creating a problem, a genuine problem, uh, creating a situation where the women finds it uncomfortable to work, right? And is being constantly emotionally and mentally being harassed, right? So these are all come under the second type, which is known as harassment that creates a hostile and work environment. There was also a discussion whether eve teasing should be considered as sexual harassment. So there are different opinion about it. Some say that it is not very harmful and therefore not to be considered as sexual harassment. But we have heard cases in which it started with eve teasing and it went into a very very bad kind of a sexual uh, harassment situation. And one needs to really figure it out, that to what extent an eve teasing can be uh, uh, you know uh, thought about harmless. Okay, but it may not be harmless always, right? So a lot of international conventions have come up, right? We know about CEDAW, right? There were in Nairobi also a lot of women came forward about the sexual harassment thing. In Beijing Declaration also, a platform of action also, there were a lot of talk about the sexual harassment, because sexual harassment is not just a case in India or anything. It happens worldwide. Okay. And that is the reason the uh, UN have always given importance to these, right? When you go through it, you will find that in Indian scenario there are several articles, okay, in the law, that basically in the Indian Penal Code, which uh, talks about and gives the right to the women to ask for justice. And there are a lot of laws which are made for the uh, sexual harassment and the punishments and made for that. But then the problem is that the constitution gives a right, right? So in constitution and in the Indian Penal Code there is a lot of uh, talk about sexual harassment, but it is still there, right? And Vishaka judgment is also something which has given a special uh, a case for it, where the organizations must have a redressal cell. Organization, if a case of sexual harassment has come to the management must create a committee, okay, where people from outside should be a part of the committee and not just within the organization, because then the decision can be biased. So the NGO should come forward and take action in it. And if at all it is if the sexual harassment case is proved, the company should take a very strong step against it. That it There should be meetings, staff meetings, in which this kind of a sexual harassment, and what could be the consequences, must be constantly made. So there should be an awareness that is created. So all these things have been done in India also. And in many initiatives were taken by the human rights uh, uh, people. So these are the things were there. And then we have, I don't know what to do. There are two topics which we need to talk about. uh, should we do it in the next class, just maybe 15 minutes, Can we do it in the, what I'm trying to say is what has happened. Yeah. So can we just do it maybe, 10-15 minutes in our next session and then start the second unit, I mean the second paper? Will that be okay with all of you? Sure, Nalini. I don't want to hurry it unnecessarily today. Any opinion? Karthik said yes, we can do. What about others? Right. Okay. He said yes. Shrisha, Nalini, are you okay with it? Okay. Fine. All right. So then in that case, we'll just finish it off. In the next two units, we are supposed to talk about gender and occupational safety and health. Okay. That is one topic we need to do. And the last one is reproductive rights and health. Since we have already talked about it, it will not take much of a time. Uh, we'll concentrate on occupational safety and health, and then we will start the next paper, that is MGS 002. Okay, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we'll do that. Fine. Okay, right. So we'll do it day after tomorrow, and so I'll see you then at that time. Okay, right? Fine.
Sure, ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And take care, all of you. See you on Friday. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah. Right. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Bye.